Decor is becoming more accessible. Affordable items and creative DIY tips offer households a variety of choices to decorate their spaces to reflect personal style. One of the in-home designer trend is the Afro-Bohemian or Afrohemian decor that fuses elements from African heritage with the relaxed, eclectic vibe of Bohemian aesthetics. This vibrant style offers a unique way to express your identity and create a space that feels authentically yours. Hello everyone and welcome to Our Voices. I am Ginny Niwa, joined by my co-host Orianita Nishaka and Simini Shiekoye. In this episode, we'll explore how Africans can create homes that are both culturally rich and comfortably chic, styled with traditional African treasures. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Yes. Hi.
So, please tell me, what is your style and, how would you describe it?
Well, I have not decorated my house in a way I would say, this is me now. Mm-hmm. I'm not there yet. I'm still discovering, but in general, I like simplicity. I don't like bulky furnitures or screaming colors. Mm-hmm. I like something calm. Mm-hmm. I like having light shining into the rooms, and I like having space. But as we saw on the pictures, I like also having small displays of cultural elements, something that shows our African identity. It can be an art piece on the wall or, a wood piece on the table, but something that says who lives in the house. Something, as I said, our African identity or our religion, or something that says whose house it is.
That is amazing, because when I come into your house, it is bright and it has space.
Yes.
So you are right. But it's amazing.
So that means I'm getting there.
Yes. But I'm also discovering myself. I realize how subconsciously people decorate their house without knowing what they're doing until the end. And that's exactly what happened to me. I just went out and got pieces, and eventually it came together nicely. And I didn't really go out there looking for, I'm going to have this here and that here. No, I just went out as my wallet dictated and just got different pieces. Now, when I went out and got those things, I realized that now, when having this discussion to plan for this show, that identity is very important, like you said in the intro. Identity is very important in that when you come into my house, automatically what you see is a Burundian house. You see Burundian art crafts, baskets, and things like that. You also eventually see American pictures, which is the Burundian American culture and identity. I realized also, people don't consciously plan for children decor. So I did that, and I have my children area because, they're also part of the space, so they have to see themselves in the space. So I have that. My religion and my faith have to display, so I have those pieces. I like wooden stuff, and I'm realizing, amazingly, I'm Afro-Bohemian or Afro-chic, and I'm just like, I never planned it. But
that's something I'm going to be learning today, what those styles are and how they're different.
As I was learning, same thing. To me, I thought that I had my own style, and then as I was learning, I was like, so it's me. I'm not that unique, but it's okay. I can deal with that. And just like you, I think I'm also a minimalist, where I don't like too much information. Even portrait, I don't really like eyes in my home. Yes,
I don't think I have that either.
Yeah, or if it's religion, a cross is enough, not the whole Jesus thing. So and Afro-Bohemian feels more like me, but I lean towards Bohemian more. I also love wood, beige, white, earth tone, and natural material, which is really what Bohemian is, I think. My style is very simple, not overly busy, and I say I'm 80% Bohemian, 20%, Afro-Bohemian.
Okay, wow, it's amazing. I think we have a lot in common when it comes to that. Well, Africa Bohemian home furnishings are gaining global recognition, blending traditional craftsmanship with modern aesthetics. One Nigerian entrepreneur, Esther Joel, is leading this movement, creating pieces that not only redefine spaces, but also promote African designs internationally. Ameka Gibson brings us this story from Abuja.
Africa Bohemian home furnishings merge vibrant colors, natural textures, and artisanal techniques rooted in the African culture. These handcrafted pieces celebrate heritage while meeting modern design trends. With global Bohemian decor market worth over $3 million, such furnishings are gaining traction for their sustainability and storytelling appeal.
As Africans, we have our taste and preference in colors and in styles. So I personally put together beautiful colors and styles that can also tell an African story, whereby sitting perfectly well in the innovative world.
At the forefront of this growing trend is Nigeria's Esther Joel, founder of Enos Interior and Ventures Limited. In just 5 years, her brand is combining traditional African craftsmanship with global bohemian notes. From her factory to her showroom, Esther creates vibrant furnishings that blend cultural heritage with innovative designs for the home and the office. Esther says 80% of her materials, including timber, fabrics and foams, are sourced locally.
So because of the uniqueness of these products, my business has been patronized by some persons outside Africa. Like my vision, my plans on taking the African Bahama furniture and interior to the level where it gets accepted within the world, around the world, not just in Africa.
Esther's vision is powered by skilled artisans like Gideon Chimezie, one of her 11 employees who have honed their craft under her mentorship. Gideon believes working with Enos Interiors has introduced him to techniques that rival global standards.
It's through her enlightening and her motivation that got me to the extent that I can beat my heart, that I can produce even a foreign chair, I can do any standard of quality of production of, as far as it has to do with a sofa.
Africa Bohemian Home Furnishings and Decor has warmed its way to the hearts of many customers across the continent and beyond. The unique combination of vibrant colors, variety of textures and functionality gives this style of furnishings an edge. High-profile clients like real estate developer Andrew Adama praised the creativity of Africa Boho Furnishings, as fondly called.
I've engaged as my major furniture maker to finish everywhere we are building, as long as this world is concerned, because we are going globally.
Despite its rising fame, the African furniture market faces challenges such as limited funding and competition from imports, says Joel.
I'm limited in some aspect right now because of the inability to get access to some amounts of funds or finance to enable me bring in more manpower and expand my production system in the furniture world.
Adama says local manufacturers need not only funds but also the recognition so that their creations can hold their own in international markets.
So in terms of the African furniture markets, our youth are trying, but we need to encourage them more to enable them to do the right thing with the right resources that is available. We look down on what we have, and because of that, the imported furnitures are being sold on a very high price.
As African Bohemian furnishings gain global traction, entrepreneurs like Esther Joel are proving that cultural heritage fused with innovation can create furniture that appeals to consumers across borders. With local resources and global ambition, Nigeria's vibrant furniture industry is poised to compete globally, one handcrafted masterpiece at a time. For Gibson and Mecca in Abuja, I'm Vincent Makori, VOA News.
Thank you, Emeka Gibson, for that report. Joining us today is Ms. Nasozi Kakembo, interior designer of Accent Studio based in Washington, D.C. She's the author of the African Decor Edit, Collecting and Decorating with Heritage Objects, that provides thoughtful guidance on how iconic home goods from Malian mudcloth to Moroccan rugs can be used in home decorating with traditional African treasures. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So nice to have
everybody.
you in the studio.
Thank you for
You are
having
a
me.
gem, I think,
Oh, wow.
because you are really accentuating what we should be appreciating even while we are on the continent or in the diaspora. So,
Absolutely.
great
Thank
work.
you. I appreciate that.
So let me ask you this. How would you compare the Afro-Bohemian style to other home decor?
To other home decor, that's a great question. Initially, well, I'll start out by saying that the Afro-Bohemian terminology or characterization is not one that I personally or professionally subscribe to necessarily when I'm speaking to or working with African objects and art of specifically African origin from various parts throughout the continent. And the reason that I make that distinction is for a few reasons. Bohemia, if we want to be very like literal and technical, is a region in Eastern Europe, in the former Czechoslovakia and current day Czech Republic, and there is an ethnic group called the Bohemians. So if we want to, in fact, be accurate and to give the credit where credit's due and acknowledgement, then we are, in a way, misappropriating their terminology and their identity and applying it somewhat arbitrarily to other ethnicities and other regions and origins. And really at the root of my work is accuracy and consistency in acknowledgement, in
So what would you call it?
Yeah.
So I would call it African. I call it African.
Simple.
Yeah, very
Direct.
simple,
Yes.
simple, direct. And that is still an umbrella term, but if or when we know the origin of the object, then we refer to it as the country, from that country of origin. But then even better, if we know the region or the people who created that object of art, then we refer to it by the people who created it or the name of the object. So
We'll definitely come back to that and continue the conversation. With that said, let's hear from women in Accra, Ghana about their decor preferences and whether they incorporate African or Western elements into their homes. Take a listen to Farida Jibril, Margaret Ofori, and Mercy Boadu in our Your Voice segment.
My furniture, everything was made in Ghana. Yes, I'm a Ghanaian, so definitely I would like to purchase things from Ghana, okay? But it's not everything. I can't get everything from Ghana. Definitely I would get some of the things outside the country as well. So I just decided to blend everything together. With my bed, my furniture, everything is in white. The petty decors, like to decorate the room, the lighting, the strip lights that I bought, that's what I ordered from China and other stuff. So when I was about to start thinking of decorations, I didn't want to do too much because I wouldn't be in my father's house for long. I would definitely get married and move out.
For me, I have a mixture of the African and the Western decor in my home. It's really difficult to choose between those two. I like the Western decor because it has a neutral color. I like it because of those neutral colors. But I really prefer the African decor because they are usually unique. Some African decor, like woven baskets, carved woods, like those things, they add like a sense of personal touch to the decor you have in your room. And I also like African decor because I like to support local artisans. So you always find these people in your locality, your area, and it's so easily accessible. Sometimes when you're driving around, you just see them crafting some nice decor you can use in your room, and it's very nice. So I like to support local artisans. I have a few of them in my room, and every time my parents are like, oh, this thing, do you know the history about it? I'm like, no, I thought it was just to make the room nice. They're like, no, then they'll start telling you, so back in the day, this thing came from here and that and that and that. So they always have a nice story about it to tell. So this African decor makes you feel like, yeah, you have like a rich heritage and something that you have to promote.
I would say the African decor is nice. So I prefer the African decor than the Western decor. It's what we have in Africa, so we can't prefer the Western one, then leave the African one. We have to be used to the African one. The African decor is special because it makes things easy for us.
Well, thank you so much for the women in Ghana for sharing their preferences and the style. So let me come back to you, Nasozi. If someone wants to convey, let's say, wealth or success or, you know, royalty with a style, how does African style, how do you achieve that with that style?
Yeah, so in that regard, there are a range of opportunities and objects that you can incorporate, primarily because a lot of them were developed with royalty and ceremony and value in mind. So, for example, Cameroonian juju hats with the feathered hats, originally hats, but now they're used primarily as wall decoration. They originate from the western region of Cameroon. So those were created for ceremonies. Those already have a very elevated history and tradition behind them. So that is one example of how you can instantly incorporate that aesthetic into your home that way.
Okay, I have heard about Afrochic.
Yeah.
And maybe you could tell me about that. And sounds like African luxury. How can you achieve that on the budget when you talk about, because you were talking about identifying the right way
Yes, absolutely.
African pieces.
So Afrochic, I will also, in the terminology dictionary, I will say my friends Janine Hayes and Brian Mason somewhat coined that term about more than 10 years ago in their book called Afrochic.
Okay.
And they were really among the first African-American designers to position our traditional wares, both African and African-American, in a modern, luxurious, chic way. So that has been a great reference point and inspiration for me, and their book launch was in fact the first I ever attended.
Nice.
And then in terms of achieving
affordability,
this,
because a lot of the pieces are imported. Can you,
So in some instances, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, you do have to save your money. We're saving money for vacations, we're saving money for our Prada bags, we're saving money for all kinds of other things. These are investment pieces.
Yes.
These are pieces They're conversation pieces. They're pieces that you can pass down throughout your family. Many of the pieces that I've brought to display here and discuss with you today were passed down to me from my mother, or I kind of just took them from her house, but they were passed down to me, and they have stories to tell. I'm here telling you this story and telling our audience this is Nigerian, exactly, from my mother's home.
Okay.
A nupe stool.
We'll definitely hear the stories behind them.
Yes, exactly.
But how do you feel about mass product decor? You know,
right.
The authentic, but not the authentic.
Exactly. So I feel two different ways about it. If it is an object that is mass producing, if it's a product that's mass producing an object that originates in Africa, and it's not mass produced in Africa, then I have a problem with that. If we're mass producing our own cultural heritage objects and exporting them and benefiting them financially, economically, culturally, then that's what I would love to see. That's what I want to see.
That's a great point.
But when we don't reap the benefit, then it's
that sounds like when we have the African print being printed out in China or something like that. Right.
Well, we'll discuss more coming up, but it's now time for a short break. Coming up, interior designer Nasozi Kakembo will share tips on how you can become the queen of modern Afrochic style for your home decor. So we want to also hear from you. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, and X at VOA Africa using the hashtag VOA Our Voices. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world. and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganye. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Done your dish show in your house.
Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices, and today we're diving into Afrochic home decor, the Afro-Bohemian way. We're still gonna use that for now. Here with us is interior designer Nasozi Kakembo from Accent Studio and the author of the African Decor edit, Collecting and Decorating with Heritage Objects.
Yes,
So,
this book is like, it's very heavy. It has gorgeous pictures in it of African chic. And it has your home, I was saying, it has your home pictures in here. We should have done this episode in your house so we can get more inspiration.
Yes.
Now, tell us a little bit about how you put this together and what your thought process was.
So initially, because we know there's a wealth of and an abundance of beauty and objects from around the continent. So if I'm thinking of the scope of what I wanted to be able to cover, I really wanted to identify and represent the general 5 geographic regions throughout the continent. So to make sure that I shared stories and objects from north, south, east, west, and central. So to that extent, I really curated and sought out those artisans and those conversations, as well as those homes. If you pick up pretty much any interior design book, home decor book, and you look for the trends and the ideas and the tips, all of the homes are from the US and Europe. And I really wanted to flip that on its head because some of the most beautiful homes that I've seen in this world are in Africa. And some of them, not as many as I would love to see, but some of them also decorate with African decor and decor that reflects our respective identities and heritage. So that was really the scope that I narrowed down to represent in the book.
That's very interesting. And you were talking about, you know, representing or using African treasures for home decor, and you brought some here today, and you were telling us that some of them were brought down, were given to you by your family, right?
Yes.
So tell us about them, like how simple or how expensive do these, you know, things need to be for you to use them as a decor?
So I will start actually with the indigo on this end of the table. And this is a vintage piece from Mali, and if you look very closely, there's even a gold metallic threading through it. And this is not inexpensive. This will run you, if you're really paying a fair price, this will run you at least $100, maybe even $150, $200. But the thing is, this serves many functions. This is, and you'll see this in the book, this is a hand towel in my powder room.
Wow.
I've taken this to picnics to the beach. This is my beach towel.
Wow.
This is my towel when I travel because it folds up very, very, very small. And I have several of these, so it's not the same one for every purpose.
So this is a special stool that I saw in the book that you decorate
Yes.
very well into your house. Tell us a little bit about how what does this, you know, represent?
Yes, so this is a Nupe stool, and this comes from Nigeria.
Okay.
And what I love about this stool, and as you can see here, what we use as an example to open the conversation with, is that these represent or are similar. They're inspired by African decor, but they are in fact mass-produced from a big box store in the U.S. And they're very likely inspired by these types of objects. And this is an authentic object from Nigeria. So you really see that connection, and I don't know if you can see it from where you're sitting, but from where I'm sitting, I can see that one of the legs on this is already broken. This will not break.
And you have been on the continent. You've been in Uganda, Ghana. What are you seeing in terms of like the industry, the tourism industry? Are they embracing this style, Afrochic?
Stealing the culture.
Yes, they're really trying their best. A lot of the demand comes from tourism, which took a hit during the pandemic and is slowly getting back up. And then you have inflation and other global macroeconomic pressures that are kind of hampering that upward growth. But you also have a hospitality industry that's really embracing, incorporating African decor into their aesthetics, into their interior design. And I really have noticed that the hospitality industry at the forefront of embracing.
Like big hotel chains.
Exactly, the hotel chains, the restaurants.
That's good, they're bringing business to the local people.
Exactly. I stayed in a beautiful hotel in far western Cameroon and was just completely blown away by all of the native traditional Cameroonian pieces.
You're right. I've seen some restaurants who are out of this world with African inspired.
So we really have to stop calling it bohemian. It's really African because these are African inspired pieces. These are foresty, natural things that you see on the continent everywhere and every day.
But they also know, depending on the architect, they also know how to modernize, the look. Like
that's what I was going to ask you. Like sometimes I go and I buy all these things. I bring them and then I put them in my closet because I don't know how to display them in a way it's attractive.
Yeah, so I think in that regard, in a sense, less is more. And I think I overheard part of our prep earlier where we all kind of lean to an extent toward minimalism. And that's
definitely
and I think that's in fact at the core of, an African aesthetic. There's this assumption that African aesthetics are like wild and all over the place and like so loud, but that's actually not the case. I think that's a caricature.
Well, this is where we conclude today's show. A big thank you to our guest interior designer, Nasozi Kakembo of XN Studio, and the author of the African Decor Edit for sharing her insights and expertise. Catch this episode and other Our Voices program on the VOA Africa website or our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week with another exciting program.